July 2, 2023. Spain and #039's famous Costa Dorada in the popular resort town of Salou. Tourists come here from all over Europe for the bright sunshine, warm Mediterranean water, and the chance to completely unwind. We and #039 re at the 4-star Magnolia Hotel, an upscale property with one firm rule: guests must be adults. No family crowds, no young voices around the pool. Just spa treatments, a hammam, relaxing cocktails, and peace and quiet. You have to admit, it sounds like the perfect setting for a romantic getaway for two. But on that Sunday, the calm atmosphere inside the hotel was suddenly disrupted. Guests staying on the same floor began contacting the staff with complaints. Very strange, very loud sounds were coming from one particular room. At first, it sounded like nothing more than a heated argument. But the situation escalated quickly, turning into something that sounded completely out of control and genuinely alarming. At a hotel like this, guests generally don and #039 get involved in other people and #039's business. Privacy is part of the experience. But this time, the disturbance became so intense that ignoring it was practically impossible. Calls to the front desk became more persistent. When I was going through the material from this Spanish investigation, one detail really stood out to me: just how long a system can sometimes overlook clear warning signs. And before we open that door and find out what really happened, I want to ask you for one small favor. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like in advance. Your support genuinely motivates me to dig deeper, track down hard to find information, and bring you criminal cases that most people have never heard about. Done. Great. Let an #039's keep going. Back in the hallway of the Magnolia Hotel, the staff did not respond immediately. Some time passed, valuable minutes, before the employee on duty reluctantly headed up to the correct floor. His assignment was simple: give the noisy guests a firm warning and tell them to stop disturbing everyone else. He walked up to the door and knocked. There was no answer. The shouting had stopped. So had the sound of footsteps inside the room. And now, that sudden silence made the employee far more uneasy than the noise had just moments earlier. Realizing that something might be seriously wrong, the hotel worker took out a master electronic key. He tapped the card, turned the handle, pushed the door open, and froze in the doorway. What he saw inside was deeply disturbing. 2 people were lying on the floor of the upscale hotel room. The woman showed no signs of life. She was 36-year-old Irish tourist Kirsty Ward. A thick electrical cord from a hair straightener had been wrapped tightly around her neck several times. Just a few feet away from her was a man named Keith Byrne, also an Irish citizen. Unlike Kirsty, he was alive, but he appeared to be barely conscious and in a confused state. His clothes and hands were stained with blood, and there were fresh injuries on his wrists. Personal belongings were scattered around the room, and furniture had been pushed out of place, clear signs that a violent and chaotic struggle had taken place. Panicked, the hotel employee immediately called emergency services. So, what exactly happened behind that closed door on a sunny Sunday in Spain? Was this the tragic end of some kind of mutual agreement? Was it a desperate act of self-defense that spiraled out of control? Or were investigators looking at a cold, calculated crime that someone had clumsily tried to make look like something else? The paramedics and local police arriving at the hotel had no idea yet just how tangled the web of lies would become over the next several hours. And the answer was an #039 really. Inside that hotel room, It was buried in the past of the two people who had occupied it. 2. Understand what led to the events at that Spanish hotel, we need to go back several years and head to Ireland. Kirsty Ward lived in Dundrum, a former village that eventually grew into a major suburb of Dublin. It and #039, a well-known area, home to one of Europe and #039's largest shopping centres. But Kirsty herself was far removed from nightlife and flashy social scenes. She was raising her 14-year-old son, Evan, on her own. Family was at the center of her everyday life. She was incredibly close to her mother, Jackie, her father, John, her sister, Zoe, and her brother, Ryan. She was a single mom whose life revolved around the people closest to her. And at some point, she simply decided she wanted to find a reliable partner. She needed someone who understood that her son would always come first. Before long, she met someone new. At first glance, he seemed like an ideal candidate for the role of protector. He was around Kirsty and #039's age and was also raising 3 sons and daughters on his own. But what made him seem especially dependable was his background. He presented himself as a career soldier. And that part wasn't an #039 entirely made up. He really had served in Britain with an elite military unit, the Irish Guards. These are the famous soldiers in tall bearskin hats often seen standing guard outside royal palaces. On top of that, his military record included genuine service with the Parachute Regiment, military bearing, discipline, and first-hand experience with the realities of raising a family. On paper, it all looked convincing. And listen, when I started looking into this man myself, I had the same thought. For a single mother looking for stability, it was hard to imagine a more promising match. But once I started checking official records and publicly available documents, that flawless image developed a major crack. There was one detail he had kept hidden. In 2017, this seemingly exemplary guardsman had not left the military with an honorable retirement at all. He had simply gone absent without authorization. He packed up his personal belongings and quietly disappeared from his unit without formally requesting discharge. For a serviceman, that was a serious offense. The kind of decision that could destroy an entire military career. From that day forward, his own command considered him wanted. After leaving the military, his life took a very questionable turn. The structure and discipline of army life were replaced by a growing record of run-ins with the police. At one point, the former paratrooper was caught siphoning diesel fuel from other people and #039's parked vehicles. Quite a contrast, ISN and #039 it. This was hardly the kind of activity you would expect from someone with elite military training. It was more like the behavior of a low-level street criminal looking for an easy way to make money. Then, buried in older criminal records, another troubling detail surfaced. When he was younger, the former guardsman had regularly gotten into trouble with the law alongside a friend named Calvin Smith. By now, Smith was very well known to Irish police. He later became involved with a major prohibited substance trafficking organization, worked as a professional enforcer, and was arrested in 2017 following an attempted attack on another man. There is no direct evidence in the case record showing that the two remained in contact as adults. Still, that background gives us a pretty clear idea of the kind of circles the deserter had been exposed to earlier in his life. On one side, there was Kirsty, a quiet woman deeply devoted to her son and her parents. On the other, there was a man hiding from his own military command, carrying connections from a troubled past, while presenting himself to others as a respected veteran. These two completely different people began building a relationship that would eventually bring them to that hotel room in Spain. They had met roughly 8 months before. The tragedy. At first, their relationship looked like thousands of others. Mutual attraction, strong emotions, and the genuine feeling that each of them had finally found the right person. But that early excitement disappeared remarkably fast. Their relationship quickly became an emotional roller coaster. Constant arguments, temporary breakups, followed by equally intense reconciliations, became completely normal for them, part of their everyday routine. And an already unstable situation was repeatedly made worse by the way they spent their time together. The couple regularly consumed large amounts of hard liquor and used prohibited substances, including cocaine. Kirsty and Hash 039's family was the first to recognize how unhealthy the relationship had become. Her relatives openly disliked Keith. They sensed something unsettling beneath the surface. A combination of aggression and instability that made them deeply uncomfortable. They could see that Kirsty and Hash 039's behavior was changing, but for a while, there was very little they could do to influence the choices she was making in her personal life. By the summer of 2023, the couple decided they needed a change of scenery. Maybe some time away would help them sort things out and give their relationship one last chance. So they planned to spend a week under the Spanish sun. I and Hash 039's analyzed a lot of cases like this, and I always pay attention to what happens when a couple travels together in another country, sharing the confined space of a hotel room. You suddenly have very few ways to get away from each other. At home, you can turn around and leave, stay with friends, or bury yourself in work. But when you and Hash 039 abroad, you tend to see your partner exactly as they are, without the usual social filters or protective mask. For Keith, this vacation probably seemed like a chance to repair a relationship that was already falling apart. For Kirsty, however, the trip became the final test that showed her exactly where things stood. Just before they were scheduled to leave, Kirsty and Hash 039's mother, Jackie, developed an intense feeling that something was wrong. She couldn't and Hash 039's really explain it. In conversations with relatives, she admitted that she barely recognized her own daughter anymore. Kirsty seemed to be living under some kind of invisible pressure. Jackie openly called the vacation a huge mistake and directly asked her daughter to stay in Ireland. But the tickets had already been paid for. The bags were packed and the couple boarded the plane. Once they arrived in Salou, relaxation was the last thing they found. Instead, every source of tension between them seemed to become more intense. The beautiful surroundings of an upscale hotel only made the growing distance between them more obvious. Being together almost constantly magnified every problem they already had. And it was there, in Spain, that Kirsty finally saw the relationship for what it was. She understood clearly that they had no future together. She made a firm, carefully considered decision to end the destructive relationship for good. When investigators later examined her belongings and digital records, they discovered one crucial piece of evidence that would seriously undermine the suspect and Hash 039's later explanations. Kirsty already had a confirmed return ticket to Dublin for Tuesday, July 4th. In other words, by the time their confrontation happened that Sunday, she was already preparing to leave. She only had 48 hours left in Keith and Hash 039's company. After that, her plan was to board a plane, return to her family, and start a new life without him. She wasn't an Hash 039's T showing signs that she wanted to harm herself or end her life. She was making plans for what came next and looking ahead with confidence. But it was Kirsty and #039's firm decision to finally walk away that set off the events that would prevent her from ever leaving that hotel room. We and #039 re back inside that hotel room in Solothurn, where police and paramedics have just found 2 people lying on the floor. The medical team immediately begins examining them and quickly establishes one crucial fact: the man is alive. The injuries to his wrists turn out to be completely superficial. They are bleeding heavily, creating a disturbing scene for anyone who happens to see it, but they are not life-threatening in any way. 2. Investigators. The injuries look like a crude attempt to create the appearance that he had tried to harm himself. The suspect is rushed to a local hospital under police guard, where doctors quickly treat his wounds. As soon as they are bandaged and the basic medical procedures are completed, officers place him in a police vehicle and take him directly to the station to give his first official statement. During questioning, the former soldier appears confident and gives investigators a story that, at least on the surface, sounds carefully put together. He claims that Kirsty had completely lost control of herself after consuming prohibited substances and alcohol. According to him, she had been behaving in an alarming and irrational way that night. He literally told investigators that over the course of just a few hours, she seemed to display 4 completely different personality. Keith insists that the 2 of them became involved in an intense verbal argument. According to his version, he decided that the best way to keep things from escalating was to leave the hotel for a while, get some fresh air, and cool down. Then, he says, when he returned to the room, he found a horrifying scene. According to Kirsty, he had ended her own life while he was away using the hotel room door handle. Now, tell me, how often do you believe in coincidences like that when the only witness just happens to step outside at the exact moment something terrible occurs? Whenever I read statements like this, one thing immediately catches my attention: how quickly the suspect tries to shift all responsibility onto the victim and #039's mental state. Kirsty and #039's family immediately rejected that convenient, carefully constructed version of events, and they gave investigators a powerful logical reason for doing so. There was no farewell note anywhere in the hotel room. For a mother who was completely devoted to her teenage son, the idea that she would simply disappear from his life without leaving even a short message on her phone made absolutely no sense to the family. There was something else. Kirsty and #039's medical history contained no record of psychiatric diagnoses or previous depressive episodes. Several weeks after the suspect was placed in pre-trial detention, something happened that seemed almost impossible under the circumstances. Despite being held under strict supervision, Keith somehow gained access to a smartphone with an internet connection. From inside his cell, he recorded a selfie video and sent it to people he knew. Before long, the recording made its way into the public domain, and what Keith said in that video caused widespread shock. In that footage, the man sitting in front of the camera doesn't and #039 look like someone devastated by the loss of a partner. Keith appears completely calm, even cheerful. With a wide smile, he talks about daily life behind bars as if he were staying at a resort, openly praising the conditions inside the facility. But the most disturbing detail is the way he talks about Kirsty. When he mentions her in the video, he simply refers to her as that girl. No name, no visible grief. He talks about her with complete emotional distance, almost as if she was some stranger he had happened to find inside the hotel room. 4. Kirsty and Hash 039's family. The recording felt like a slap in the face. And for investigators, it became another powerful reason to believe that the survivor and Hash 039's accounts simply did not match reality. Now, it was time to let the physical evidence speak. Forensic specialists in Spain began a detailed examination of the evidence, and their findings quickly dismantled the former soldier and Hash 039's carefully constructed story. The pattern of injuries did not match his claim that Kirsty had ended her own life. In the type of scenario Keith described, the mark around the neck would normally follow a distinctive upward angle. But specialists found something completely different. The mark on Kirsty and Hash 039's neck ran horizontally, and the specific internal injuries found around her throat indicated strong external pressure. The evidence suggested that someone had approached her from behind, placed the cord around her neck, and pulled it tight with considerable force. The biomechanics of the injuries were inconsistent with Kirsty having done this to herself. Then, investigators received the results of an expanded toxicology examination, removing what little doubt remained. Laboratory testing detected a critically high concentration of cocaine in Kirsty and Hash 039's system, combined with a very large amount of hard liquor. At those levels, the body would be under extreme strain. Coordination would be severely impaired, and a person could be close to losing consciousness. According to the medical findings, carrying out deliberate, physically demanding actions to end her own life would have been virtually impossible in that condition. But there was an even more disturbing implication. That level of physical and chemical impairment would also have made meaningful self-defense extremely difficult. Kirsty would have had almost no ability to fight back against a sudden attack. Whenever I follow investigations like this, I find myself asking the same question. Do criminals today really believe they can somehow outsmart microscopes and laboratory equipment? Science doesn't and Hash 039's care how charismatic a suspect appears, or how disciplined he looks because of his military background. Forensic evidence has no personal bias, and when there are no direct witnesses, it can be exactly what investigators need to break through a dead end. Why do you think offenders keep making the same mistake and underestimate what modern forensic laboratories can uncover? Share your thoughts in the comments. I and Hash 039 am always interested in reading your analysis under these videos. As soon as news of the Irishman and Hash 039's arrest began appearing in European media reports, the investigation took an unexpected turn and expanded far beyond Spain and Hash 039's Mediterranean coast. People from the suspect and Hash 039's past voluntarily contacted law enforcement. Two of his former girlfriends came forward to give official statements to investigators. What emerged was a disturbing and consistent pattern: isolating a partner, maintaining strict psychological control, breaking down her independence, and eventually escalating into uncontrolled physical aggression appeared to be a pattern this man had repeated in relationships for years. One of the women made the incredibly difficult decision to make her experience public, giving investigators the crucial missing piece of the puzzle. In her statement, she described being subjected to an almost identical attack in the past. During an argument at home, the former paratrooper had grabbed her by the neck and restricted her breathing. She survived only because other people happened to intervene. Witnesses physically forced the aggressor to release her. That testimony fundamentally changed the way investigators viewed the suspect. Police no longer had only a theoretical motive. They now had a documented pattern of remarkably similar behavior. The scattered pieces of evidence were finally beginning to fit together, giving investigators what they needed to reconstruct what happened inside the hotel. The evidence eventually provided a much clearer picture of how the confrontation that frightened the neighboring guests had begun. That Sunday, Kirsty told Keith directly about the final decision she had reached. The day before, she told him their relationship was over, and that on Tuesday, she would return to Dublin alone. For someone accustomed to dominating a relationship,